Outrageous Chapter 37. Chu Luo was completely blindsided and confused by Sang Wanxi's actions. He had always thought that this face of his would open every door for him. It was only today that he realized, it's true, people would encounter a few accidents in their lives. And it was this accident that further reinforced the idea that Sang Wanxi was different from the rest. In this world, there's love at first sight, but there's also love growing over time. He believed that Sang Wanxi didn't like him now, but it was because they had only met each other for a short while and her understanding of him wasn't deep enough to let her discover that he was beautiful inside and out. Chu Luo firmly believed in it. Having thought things through, his mood became better and he smiled. Teacher Sang is really humorous. No wonder so many people like you. Not humorous. Sang Wanxi still didn't have any trace of emotion on her face. If I was being humorous, I would advise you not to be so strict and only look for humans. Chu Luo. Can someone tell me why it's so hard to sustain a conversation with her? Sang Wanxi had no interest at all in whatever expression he had. She had said everything she needed to say. What Chu Luo did was his own business. But if he offended her, then he shouldn't blame her for being merciless. Chu Luo wasn't discouraged and he kept looking at her with eager eyes. You can give people who like you a chance to prove it. What if you will like me? Sang Wanxi blinked and retorted, why don't you first give people who don't like you a chance? Chu Luo was stunned. Sang Wanxi didn't like this sort of thing. A one-sided crush hoping the other party would give them a chance, completely not considering the other party's feelings. How could such an unfair chance exist in the world? Liu Jiwei, who was listening behind a wall, raised an eyebrow. You know what's the difference between Chu Luo and Xiaoyan? She asked. What's the difference? Lao Wu asked. Xiaoyan is self-aware, Chu Luo isn't. Xiaoyan wouldn't hide his demand behind a nice-sounding excuse. Although that child is a little silly, but at least he knows he can't pester and annoy others. Liu Jiwei leaned against the white wall and looked at the sky, sighing soundlessly. Actually, she hadn't meant to eavesdrop, she was really just passing by coincidentally. She wanted to leave immediately, but because it was Chu Luo, the world's oil slick who couldn't understand human speech, she was a little worried he would do something against Sang Wanxi's wishes. So her feet stayed firmly planted on the ground. Now, it turns out he didn't do anything, but he was still overly confident and couldn't understand human speech. He couldn't even compare to Ying Xiz. Ying Xiz was at least a cute little brother, but Liu Jiwei still couldn't figure out if Chu Luo's character was like this or if it was forced by the storyline. But she at least knew how to test it now. Like in many idol dramas, the storyline would let the second male lead obsess over the female lead. It was as if they had blinders on, unable to see anybody else aside from the female lead. So as long as they could let go, they would be considered saved. It's okay even if they couldn't let go. As long as they didn't wave the banner of love to torture others, they weren't doing anything wrong. Anyway, being the male lead, she could only stand against the second male lead. Obsessing too deeply was not a good thing. What if he hurt Sang Wanxi? The teacher Sang, who remembered what she said, was so cute. How could she let teacher Sang get hurt? Lao Wu. A certain male lead is really becoming more and more self-aware about protecting the female lead now. Sang Wanxi finished saying everything she wanted and left. Leaving Chu Luo standing there alone, who cares what he wanted to do? She turned the corner and looked up, catching the little junior sister who was eavesdropping. Liu Jiwei got a shock, her hair ornaments jangling around as she jerked her head. Snapping back to reality, she started feeling awkward. Oh no, she was too absorbed in her thoughts and forgot to leave. now she was caught by the person she was eavesdropping on. Sang Wansi tilted her head slightly and looked at the person in front of her. As she opened her mouth, a sudden pain came from her head as she lost her train of thought. Lu Jiwei watched as Sang Wansi's eyebrows knitted together suddenly and her expression turned uncomfortable. She forgot about explaining and reached out to stabilize her. "What happened? Are you okay? I'll bring you to the medical bay." Hearing her concerned voice, Sang Wansi placed a hand on Lu Jiwei's forearm and shook her head. "It's a small matter." Hearing voices, Chu Luo came up to them. "What's wrong? Do you want?" "No need." Sang Wansi interrupted him and straightened up as her eyebrows smoothed out and her expression returned to normal as if her headache never happened. Lu Jiwei was still worried about her, not daring to look away for a second. Sang Wansi turned to look at her. Seeing the worry in Lu Jiwei's eyes, her voice softened. "Let us go, you still have scenes to film, we should go back and prepare." Lu Jiwei, who didn't have a part in the next scene, blinked and quickly understood, holding on to her hand. Let us go, I'll help you." Sang Wansi didn't refuse. Chu Luo stood there, watching the two of them walk away. He could be rejected so many times in such a short period of time. The two of them walked a distance. After ensuring Chu Luo didn't follow them, Sang Wansi gripped Lu Jiwei's hand tightly. "Let us sit here for a bit." Seeing Sang Wansi's furrowed eyebrows, Lu Jiwei immediately knew she was faking it just now. She sighed, then helped her to the bench by the side. "If you're not feeling well, you should be good and see the doctor. Don't tough it out. Okay, if you really can't walk, I can ask for the phone number for the medical bay and see if they can come over." Sang Wansi shook her head, but the action was small, as if she was afraid it would make her head hurt more. "No need, it'll be fine soon, it's a small issue." Lu Jiwei knew there was no use in trying to convince her, so she stopped. Sighing again, she sat down beside Sang Wansi and raised her hand, helping to massage her temples to alleviate the pain. Lu Jiwei controlled her strength carefully, her fingers pressed down softly in a comforting massage. So Sang Wansi didn't fight against it. She even bent down slightly so Lu Jiwei didn't have to raise her arms too much. Seeing her so obedient, Lu Jiwei couldn't help but continue. "Be good, if you're not well then you should see the doctor and not drag it out. No matter what, your health is always the priority. If you fell sick while filming, your dad would definitely be hurt." Sang Wansi stayed silent, looking at her quietly. Would her father be distressed for me? Would he? He would, probably. She no longer knew. From the day that he requested for her to be as excellent as her mother, their relationship had become strained and distant. Distant to the point that even though they were related by blood, she couldn't answer such a simple question now. If her mother was still around, then the two of them definitely wouldn't be like this. Lu Jiwei could sense a trace of desolation from the silence and quickly said, "Besides your dad, there are others, relatives and friends. They'll definitely feel hurt for you too." At this point, she was afraid she would say something wrong again, so she quietly asked, "Wansi, you should have relatives that spoil you, right? Such an adorable child, it would be unscientific if nobody loved and spoiled her. Besides, she was the female lead, how could nobody spoil the female lead?" "I do." Sang Wansi's headache subsided slowly as her voice became clearer. "My aunt. She had run away to film for so long, and her father hadn't sent anybody to drag her back. She could definitely guess that Meng Lianyu was the one playing mediator in the middle. Meng Lianyu had always been very supportive of her choosing what she wanted in life. With Meng Lianyu around, she didn't need to worry about how things were at home, and she didn't need to worry about her father not having company over the new year. With Meng Lianyu around, she just needed to work hard to become a good actress. If this wasn't considered spoiling her, then she didn't know what spoiling her was. Ah, there's still an aunt. Lu Jiwei sighed in relief. That's good. That's right, so even if not for yourself, for your aunt. If you fall sick, your aunt will definitely be sad. Do you want to see her sad? Of course not, but that's different. Sang Wansi looked down. When the pain had completely subsided, she smiled shallowly. Don't worry, I know my limits. It was Lu Jiwei's turn to frown. If you know, then why are you still refusing to go to the medical bay? Sang Wansi said calmly, because I have my limits. Lu Jiwei. She laughed, this kid, you're taking me around in circles. Sang Wansi didn't want her to continue this topic, so she changed the subject. Why were you there just now? Lu Jiwei's hands stilled, then she smiled awkwardly. If I said I was passing by coincidentally, would you believe it? Sang Wansi looked up. Lu Jiwei didn't dare to make eye contact. Just passing by, then I saw you two were talking. I wanted to leave, but I was scared he would do something to you, so I didn't. In the end, I forgot to leave first, then got caught by you two. It's a bit awkward, hey? Sang Wansi couldn't help but laugh, her eyes shining prettily. Hearing it, Lu Jiwei's ears started turning red as she quickly withdrew her hands, wanting to dig a hole into the ground. God, she was embarrassing herself again in front of a kid. But you told Chu Luo that he's not in your circle of consideration just now. She cautiously asked. What is your circle of consideration? Please give her, this poor male lead, a clue. She still had the mission of saving the world hanging over her head. Sang Wansi's lips parted. I don't know. Lu Jiwei. Sang Wansi said composedly, I don't have an ideal type, I was just rejecting him. Lu Jiwei. Lu Jiwei, okay, that's so you.jpg. Lu Jiwei said, since you don't like him, it's good that you made it clear. Then, will you tell me when you have one? Sang Wansi raised her right hand and rubbed her temple that had just been massaged. Hearing this, she turned to look at Lu Jiwei calmly. The more calm she was, the harder it was for Lu Jiwei to be calm. After all, there was a saying called the calm before the storm. She was afraid Sang Wansi would think she had ulterior motives, then distance herself from her. She quickly raised her hands, don't misunderstand, I just want to take a look and judge them for you. Besides, an older sister knowing a younger sister's ideal type, it doesn't seem too overboard, right? Sang Wansi looked at her quietly for a while. Then nodded. I'll tell you when I have one. Lu Jiwei's smile became sincere in an instant, okay. Sang Wansi's fingers paused after massaging her temple for a while. She leaned towards Lu Jiwei. Lu Jiwei watched as she suddenly stuck her head over and asked, what's wrong? Sang Wansi's voice was soft, as if she was whining, it's comfortable when you massage, I want you to help me massage it again. Okay Jija. Lu Jiwei's ears started itching at being called Jija. She realized Sang Wansi had seemingly completely figured out how to control her. If not, then how could she so accurately get it each time? She really was a clever little kid. Lu Jiwei raised her hands in resignation, and asked curiously, why didn't you spend the new year with your aunt then? Sang Wansi, she was accompanying my dad. Lu Jiwei nodded in understanding then smiled, Wansi is so pretty, Anta must be a great beauty too. Sang Wansi didn't deny it. She said that herself too. Lu Jiwei. What was going on with this aura of narcissism? Thinking for a moment, Sang Wansi said, you'll see her in the future, if there's a chance. Lu Jiwei nodded. It's fine meeting whoever, it's not going to be Meng Lianyu anyway. An unknown actress wanting to meet the film empress. Sigh, her star-chasing road had a long way to go. Outrageous Chapter 38. Sang Wansi's rejection of Chu Luo had absolutely no effect on the cast's progress. Aside from Lu Jiwei, nobody else knew what had happened between the two of them, or what had been said. Lu Jiwei was not a gossipy person either, keeping their secret mindfully. So Sang Wansi didn't pay any attention to this matter. As if the moment she turned around and walked away, this memory had been wiped from her brain. To her, as long as Chu Luo didn't affect her or the progress of the shoot, she didn't care. Today's last scene was a scene with her and Lu Jiwei, in Team A. Once they finished filming, it was the end of the day. In this scene, the female disciples who shared a house with the female lead Jiaojing weren't around. Those who were out for practice were practicing. Those who were being punished were being punished. Only Jiaojing was left in the house. So the little junior sister came to share her blanket again, saying she was worried her senior sister would be scared to sleep again. She even hugged her waist and snuggled up to her. This was to portray how good the relationship between the two were. And also to set the scene for the future of the little junior sister. Overall, it was both an important, yet light scene. In the dressing room, Sang Wansi looked coolly at the script. She put on the disciple uniform, arranged her hair and smoothed out the whitened sleeves of the outfit. Her actions were slow and meticulous, showing off a calm disposition. Completely different from the low-born disciple in the drama, the her at this moment felt more like the esteemed daughter of the sect leader, the future leader of the sect. Guo Hui had seen this attitude, which is why she had decided on her as the actress for Qiaojing. She reached out a snow-white hand. The makeup artist pulled a bandage and coiled it upwards. In the script, while Qiaojing was supervising the little junior sister and the others clean up, they encountered an ambush. To protect her juniors, she had almost lost a hand. But the silver lining was that she had been recognized as the master by Shen Bing, and a new chapter of her life was about to officially begin. So the character's hand had to be wounded. The makeup artist coiled the bandage again and again, then considerately helped to pull the sleeve down. All right, it's done. After that, she checked Sang Wansi's makeup again and made her lips a little paler. How could a wounded person still look so energetic? Thank you. Sang Wansi took the script and left the makeup room with her assistant. At Team A's location, the set was already prepped and ready. As one of the main characters in this scene, the little junior sister had already taken off her shoes and crawled into Qiaojing's bed. The perpetually naughty little junior sister had planned to hide under her senior sister's blanket, then give her senior sister a surprise. Lu Jiwei shook the blanket a bit and lifted it up, turning to look at director Guo Hui to express she was ready. Guo Hui told her to hide first. Lu Jiwei obeyed. In the next second, a lump appeared underneath the blanket, round and cute. Guo Hui asked, "How is it?" Lu Jiwei adjusted her position inside. Then, Guo Hui saw a white hand reach out under the blanket and confidently make an OK gesture. Guo Hui nodded, "All right, that's it then. After we start shooting, you have to figure out the timing to lift up the blanket and scare her. Your expression should be carefree, like a kid who's playing hide and seek with an adult." Lu Jiwei's voice came from under the blanket, "Okay. She had completely understood the little junior sister's character design. She was just a kid. No different from those kids who had secret crushes on their senior sisters in school. The only difference was that her fate was tragic. Maybe it was because she answered so quickly. Guo Hui couldn't help but laugh. Why are you still under the blanket? Lu Jiwei answered seriously, to prepare. Guo Hui said this was fine, so she would just maintain this position. What if she moved and it wasn't fine? Besides, it was cold at night and the script set the season as summer, so their outfits were all thin. She felt that it was warmer under the blanket. Guo Hui was amused. Wan isn't here yet. Come out and have some fresh air, prepare again later. Lu Jiwei oed. Only to open a small opening at the edge of the blanket and show her face. She breathed, then waited patiently for Sang Wansi. You're going to wait like that? Guo Hui asked. Lu Jiwei nodded, it's warm inside. Then she lifted a corner and warmly invited, Director Guo, do you want to join? It's warmer than it is outside. Guo Hui waved her hand, no need, I'm wearing much more than you guys. She looked at the door, wait for a bit, Wan Si should be here soon. Lu Jiwei flashed another OK sign. Guo Hui suddenly felt this child was quite adorable. She had a face that had to be put into the bloopers for the audience to enjoy. Just as Guo Hui spoke, Sang Wansi arrived. Sorry I'm late. Having said that, Sang Wansi saw Lu Jiwei looking like a turtle under the blanket, with only her face peeking out. Sang Wansi couldn't help but pause. Lu Jiwei looked calm with a hint of amusement in her eyes. She couldn't describe how cute Lu Jiwei looked at this moment. So she walked over, reached out a hand and rubbed Lu Jiwei's head through the blanket. There was a trace of laughter in her voice. Little Shimei. Lu Jiwei. Why does it feel like she's calling me so sincerely, almost as if she's really taking me for a younger sister? Does this kid remember I'm older than her? This kid's grown up and become all rebellious, starting to not show respect, but she didn't care about these anyway. What could she do to Sang Wansi? Didn't she have to spoil her? No matter how rebellious Sang Wansi became, Lu Jiwei, the lowly male lead, is online, humbly. The actors were all present. The various crew members got ready. Guo Hui gave the order to start rolling. It was time for the disciples to sleep. Qiaojing returned to the house and pushed open the door, facing the empty room alone. Every female disciple in the house had something to do, and the sect leader had specially allowed her to rest due to her injury. She wanted to take out Shen Bing to scrutinize it. That sword was in the wound on her left arm. Taking advantage of her being wounded, Shen Bing had transformed into a wisp of spiritual energy and entered her wound, disappearing without a trace. Till today, it was still quietly resting in her body. But she didn't take off the bandage, because there was someone in the room. More specifically, something. It was on her bed, under her blanket. She looked at the lump cautiously, raising 2 fingers silently. The demons had been running rampant these days, and she had to be on guard against them. Just as she was about to attack the lump, it moved first. Lu Jiwei had counted down in the blanket and suddenly threw it off, jumping out. Shija! Her expression was incredibly cheery. The little junior sister's innocence and liveliness were completely brought out by her. When Sang Wansi, playing Qiaojing, saw the familiar little junior sister, her tensed-up eyebrows loosened. Her entire body relaxed. The little junior sister saw the 2 fingers she had up and her face drained of color as she hurriedly wrapped herself with the blanket and jumped back on the bed, as if she was hiding from something. Qiaojing didn't understand. She put her hand down and walked over, patting her gently. What's wrong? The little junior sister asked, Shija, were you going to shiu me just now? In her eyes, Qiao Jing's attacks were always thrown out with a shiu, and it was much smoother than the rest of the disciples. And because the spells were complicated, the little junior sister didn't know which one she would use, so she called them all shiu. Disciples who spent time with the little junior sister all knew she was fond of talking like that. Qiaojing had always been warm and gentle towards this younger sister. No, how could Shija hit you? Shija just thought it was someone else, and wanted to be defensive. You thought Shija would hurt you? The little junior sister said, I was scared you'd lose control. There were a few times in the past when I was almost hit by fifth senior brother. She sprawled out on the bed despondently, why am I so unlucky? Nobody could give her an answer. Qiaojing couldn't either, but she could at least promise something, I won't hurt you. The little junior sister looked at her, catching a hint of seriousness and warmth on her face. The little junior sister propped her face up, really? Qiaojing rubbed her head, speaking as if she was coaxing a child, Shija only beats demons, not little Shimei. Everybody knew Qiao senior sister hated demons to the bone. It was because a demon had caused her to become an orphan. The little junior sister stuck out her pinky and smiled, then you have to hook pinkies with me. Promise you'll never be like them, and you have to protect me forever. Qiaojing laughed and hooked her pinky, I promise, I'll never hurt little Shimei, and I'll protect you well. According to the script, the little junior sister should have happily jumped up and hugged Qiaojing, exclaiming that her senior sister was so good. Then she should have hugged Qiaojing's waist and proclaimed she would accompany her to sleep tonight. Liu Jiwei firmly recalled the script and was about to jump up and hug Sang Wansi. Sang Wansi had portrayed Qiaojing's unawareness perfectly, as if she herself didn't know what was going to happen. Liu Jiwei had already thought of the entire process. Jump up, throw herself forward, hug Sang Wansi's neck and say her lines. Everything in one go, it would be perfect. After she had her plan, she started executing it without hesitating. She got up with a swoosh. But at that moment, she knew she had to redo it. Not only had she jumped too high, but she had also jumped too close. Because she kissed Sang Wansi on the lips. More accurately, her lips had brushed against Sang Wansi's. At that moment, the soft contact made both of them freeze. Four eyes met each other, and they could see the shock in each other's gaze. Caught off guard, the atmosphere suddenly became very awkward. Guo Hui felt something was wrong and stopped the cameras, asking concernedly, are you two okay? Sang Wansi was the first one to come to her senses, turning around and saying, it's okay, there was a bit of a mistake. Guo Hui didn't ask to redo it immediately, you two take a bit of a break first, we can shoot later. Sang Wansi nodded, okay. She turned around again to look at Liu Jiwei, realizing the other person was staring at her embarrassedly. Sorry, Wansi. Liu Jiwei was awkward and apologetic, stammering a little, I really didn't mean to, I jumped a bit too far accidentally. She was on the verge of breaking down. Save her, why was it that she could even kiss Sang Wansi like that? This was too awkward. It's okay. Sang Wansi started comforting her and repeated, it's okay. Even so, the two of them were still a little awkward. But that didn't stop Chu Luo, who was coincidentally at the scene, from getting jealous. Scheme. This must be Liu Jiwei's scheme to get close to Wansi. I must tear off her false mask in front of Wansi, so Wansi can see her for who she really is. That's what he was thinking. You've already been lying on the bed for half an hour, aren't you planning to shower and sleep? Lao Wu said as he looked at Lu Jiwei, who hadn't moved since she got back to her room. Lu Jiwei's ears were still red. That moment the accident happened was still swirling around in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more embarrassed she was. Even if it was a touch that was as light as a dragonfly landing on water. Help! She felt like her entire face was burning up. Lao Wu, it's all right, it's so normal for the male lead to kiss the female lead. Just take it as practice for your future. Lu Jiwei completely didn't dare to think of the future, embarrassedly covering her ears. You're not allowed to talk about it anymore. The present was the present, the future was the future. It hadn't even arrived yet, it's embarrassing to think about it. Lao Wu. He reminded her kindly, even if you cover your ears, you can still hear me. Lu Jiwei. Aren't you busy? Go work hard. Remember to turn off your mic. Lao Wu smiled and sighed helplessly. Turns out their male lead had the innocent and easily embarrassed script. Lu Jiwei shuffled up a bit and stuffed her head under the pillow. She didn't know how to face Sang Wansi tomorrow. In her own room, Sang Wansi couldn't help but think about that last scene. That fleeting kiss was as gentle as a faint breeze. But it was also like a ball of fire, gently running against her lips, inking a scorching temperature and making it hard for her to forget. She lifted a hand and touched the corner of her lips that had been kissed. The image of Lu Jiwei appeared in her mind. How she looked when she was shocked and apologetic. How she looked when she was spoiling her. And her clean and refreshing smile. Sang Wansi slowly lowered her hand. Being kissed by Lu Jiwei, she didn't seem to dislike it. Outrageous Chapter 39. Even the most embarrassed person had to obediently go to work. Lao Wu was still consoling Lu Jiwei while she was on the way to the set. It's an idol drama, it's normal for the male and female leads to have physical contact with each other. Grow a thicker skin, don't be embarrassed. Lu Jiwei. Forgive this lowly one for not being able to. The silver lining was that the first scene of the day didn't have Sang Wansi in it, so she didn't have to face her so soon. It was a little warmer today, so Lu Jiwei left the room wearing a long-sleeved top and not bringing a jacket. She changed into her outfit and sat quietly in the makeup room waiting for the makeup artist to draw her makeup. During the waiting period, she wasn't idle either. She kept flipping through the script and memorizing her lines, trying to get into character. The scene later was between the little junior sister and the sect leader, mainly to show the strong relationship between the two. Both the scriptwriter and director had clarified, the more sincerely and nicely the sect leader treated the little junior sister at the beginning, the more the audience would hate him in the end. This knife had to be brought down to be called a success. As for the sect leader, it was true he was an arrogant man, but it was also true that he loved his daughter. Otherwise, how could he do something as unforgivable as fate exchanging his biological daughter wasn't by his side? The little junior sister was the person who could save his daughter and was a similar age, so he naturally took the little junior sister and treated her as a replacement for his daughter. The amount of respect and dignity the sect leader's daughter should have, he was all willing to give it to the little junior sister. Until his daughter returned. Before the fate exchange was done, he truly treated the little junior sister well. But his character was ruthless. When he treated someone nicely, it was really nice. When he treated someone badly, he wouldn't show them any mercy. Or there wouldn't be retribution for him either. Lu Jiwei had seen how the sect leader came to an end in the story, and she could deeply feel the principles that the scriptwriter wanted to convey to the audience. Don't hurt others, in the darkness, karma will come for you. She got her makeup done and left for the set, hugging her script. She suddenly wanted to laugh helplessly. Someone who had never experienced parental love now had to act as if she was on very good terms with her father. Acting truly was living a life. You could experience anything. But the actor portraying the sect leader was teacher Fang Sheng with dignified features and a kind gaze, looking every bit like a loving father. And his acting skills were excellent. Lu Jiwei felt very comfortable acting with him. Fang Sheng was much older than her, and even outside of filming, he would tease her and call her his daughter. After a while, Lu Jiwei occasionally felt like she really was his daughter. She didn't mind it, it was just a running joke during work anyway. Remember, she never had the right to enjoy these in the past. Once Lu Jiwei got to the set, Fang Sheng smiled and greeted her, "Afternoon, good daughter." Lu Jiwei laughed and replied, "Dad, good afternoon to you too." Fang Sheng asked, "Do you need to practice first?" Lu Jiwei said gratefully, "If you don't mind, I would certainly be willing to." Fang Sheng's acting skills were really good. He was the previous year's Golden Laurel Awards winner for the Best Male Supporting Role category. He was also passionate and willing to teach. After acting together for a few scenes, Lu Jiwei's acting had improved tremendously under his guidance. Actors, they all had to rely on their own ability and work. Great acting skills had to be present too. Besides, the system was still waiting for her to become a top actress. How could she do it without working hard and studying? So if Fang Sheng was willing to take the time to practice with and teach her, she was naturally willing to learn. The two of them rehearsed for a while. Fang Sheng rubbed his chin and thought, then said, "Let me carry you on my back at the end." Lu Jiwei blinked. Fang Sheng pointed at the script and said, "Although my daughter is still young, but her personality is about the same as your character's, they're both a little childish. Every time I go home, my daughter loves to jump on my back and whine for me to carry her, she's so lazy. Even my son has started learning from her. Now when I get home, I'm basically a transport machine." Although he looked like he disdained his children's actions, his voice couldn't hide the warmth and amusement he felt. Clearly, he didn't truly dislike this sort of sweet burden. Hearing it, Lu Jiwei couldn't help but smile. How nice! She really envied people whose fathers loved them so much. Ever since she changed phones, the chat with her parents was blank to this day. She didn't take the initiative to text them either. Because she didn't know what to say. After she left home, she slowly lost the ability to communicate with her parents. Because of her transparency before, nothing she did would be remembered, so she didn't bother them anymore. She worked part-time as she studied at university to be able to pay her living expenses. After she graduated, she rented her own place and lived on her own. Nobody in her family thought about her, it was like she had been wiped from their world. She had no power to change this reality, and she never once complained. No matter what, at least her parents paid to let her be educated until university. The road ahead could be walked by herself. She had done it for so many years. What was the rest of her life? And as for why her parents still didn't contact her now, she didn't know why either. Maybe, possibly, probably it was because they were like her, not knowing what to say to this child that they hadn't talked to for years. Gathering her thoughts, she nodded at Fang Sheng, "Teacher Fang, I know what to do." Once Fang Sheng got into character, the attitude of a powerful, prestigious sect leader immediately shone through. He sat cross-legged on the lotus platform, meditating in silence. After a while, the sound of footsteps slowly reached his ear. He slowly opened his eyes and the lively girl skipping towards him entered his eyes. The little junior sister sat by his side and called, "Dad." The sect leader nodded lightly and smiled, you're here. Towards his daughter, his smiles always came easier than when with others. Besides, this girl was the one who was able to save his biological daughter's fate. The sect leader asked warmly, how has your training been lately? As if he was checking on her homework. The little junior sister said, it's going well. Then she lifted her skirt slightly and ruffled them, it's just that when I was practicing the fire spell, I burnt myself a little. Sigh, I'm so unlucky. The sect leader's eyebrows furrowed slightly as he asked, are you okay? Not okay. The little junior sister placed a hand on her heart and showed an exaggerated expression, her eyes gleaming. I finally wore a pretty dress and it was burnt, my heart hurts. The sect leader laughed helplessly, this girl, it's just clothing, wear whatever you want. Then he glanced at the scorched skirt, Dad will use some fire silkworm cloth to get some clothes tailored for you, so you won't have to worry about burning them. The little junior sister's eyes lit up immediately, really, Dad? The sect leader nodded. The little junior sister's eyes curved into crescents, then you have to tell them to make it prettier. If it's not pretty I won't wear it. The sect leader smiled, yes, I'll definitely let you wear the most beautiful clothes in the world. After you've put them on, nobody will look better than my daughter. The little junior sister chortled and shifted over to hug his arm, resting her head on his shoulder, Dad, you're the best. I love you the most. She really did like her sect leader father. Without this sect leader father, she would have died a long time ago. She was an orphan from a young age, a little beggar that nobody wanted. When the sect leader found her, she was only 4 years old. She had rags hanging off her skinny frame and she was covered in filth, bending over to pick up a rotten apple by the roadside to eat. It was the sect leader who had adopted her and given the best things in the world to her, leading to her rebirth today. All these years, she had long since taken the sect leader to be her real father. The sect leader smiled and patted her head, taking out an apple from his sleeve to pass to her. She looked at the apple. Sect leader, don't you like apples? She smiled and took it. Sighing, the sect leader ordered, you're not allowed to eat apples in the elders' classes from now on. She laughed and bit into the apple, refusing to answer. The sect leader patted her head again and got up, preparing to leave. The little junior sister stood up hurriedly and whined, Dad, I can't walk anymore, carry me. The sect leader stood there with his hands behind his back, watching her. The little junior sister immediately started pretending her knees were going weak. Shaking his head, the sect leader turned around and bent over slightly, come on up. The little junior sister immediately held onto the apple with her teeth as she jumped up happily. I really don't know what to do with you. Hee hee. The sect leader carried his foster daughter and walked off into the distance, leaving the warm scene to the cameras. Cut. Guo Hui shouted for the cameras to stop rolling. Lu Jiwei immediately jumped off from Fang Sheng's back, not daring to bite another piece of the apple off, in case it had to be used again. She quickly ran to the screens to watch the scene. This scene had been reshot a few times, she didn't know if this take would be good enough. Watching for a while, Guo Hui was finally satisfied, not bad. Little Lu's performance is good in this take, let us go with it. Teacher Fang, you can prepare for the next scene. She turned around to look at the girl holding onto the apple and smiled, eat it, don't waste it. Lu Jiwei sighed in relief, thanks Director Guo, then I'll go ahead. Because of the little junior sister's character, she didn't know how many apples she had eaten on set. The props director called her and the little junior sister the apple demolisher. Since she was able to rest, Lu Jiwei walked away as she ate the apple. As she was preparing to cut through the round moon archway the crew had constructed, she suddenly bumped into Sang Wansi. They both stopped walking. At that moment, the awkward memory rushed back in like a flood. Lu Jiwei froze, forgetting to chew on the apple. The atmosphere between the two descended into deadly silence again. At this moment, the system seemed to be unable to take their silence and smashed a mission down, shattering the quietness in Lu Jiwei's ears. Mission issued: feed an apple to female lead Sang Wansi. Time limit: 10 minutes. Lu Jiwei. Outrageous! Does this system know any etiquette? I've already bitten into it, how can I feed it to someone? Even though she was complaining, the mission still had to be done. It was impossible for her to waste a precious immunity pass on this sort of stupid mission, but the question remained: how to get Sang Wansi to take a bite? Her brain was in turmoil right now. She turned the apple a few times in her hand, then held it up to Sang Wansi's mouth stiffly and smiled bitterly. Do you want some? Sang Wansi. Lu Jiwei. She was numb. Kill me. What am I doing? She slowly pulled her hand back. Ah, I bit into it already. I'll go get a new apple for you. Besides, the system didn't say it had to be the one she was holding on to. Getting a new one and holding it in her hand to feed Sang Wansi, that was also considered completing the mission. Having said that, she turned to rush to the props department. If there were scenes involving the little junior sister, the props department would always prepare a bag of apples. If they weren't used, everybody would help to finish them. Sometimes they even took it to pretend it was the spiritual fruit in the drama. But as she lifted her foot, Sang Wansi stopped her. No need. Lu Jiwei put her foot down slowly, pain showing in her eyes. Those two words have determined that I'm going to be shocked. Lu Jiwei, why is your life as this male lead so bitter? Sang Wansi watched as she turned around slowly, spotting a trace of sadness in her eyes. As if her heart had been broken by Sang Wansi, Lu Jiwei felt she shouldn't stay too long in this place. If she continued staying here and the 10 minutes were up, her niece would really have a big problem in Sang Wansi's mind. She touched the back of her hand and was about to say goodbye when Sang Wansi suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist. She pulled it gently. She lowered her eyes. She bit into the apple. Lu Jiwei was stunned. System judgment. Mission point +1. Please work hard, host. System reminder: the host has accumulated 5 mission points, a prize can be drawn now. The continuous system notifications snapped Lu Jiwei out of her daze. She didn't think Sang Wansi would actually eat it. She thought Sang Wansi wouldn't like sharing an apple with someone, especially someone who accidentally kissed her yesterday. The apple was crisp and sweet, with a faint, fruity aroma. Sang Wansi felt it was like Lu Jiwei, refreshing. Seeing Lu Jiwei in a daze, Sang Wansi let go of her wrist as she patted her hand. Don't think too much. The apple's nice. 2 sentences that had no link to each other. But Lu Jiwei could understand the comfort in her words. Don't take yesterday's events to heart, we're still friends. Lu Jiwei opened her mouth and paused, finally saying those 2 words: thank you. Thank you for not despising me. Sang Wansi frowned slightly. Didn't we agree not to be so formal? Lu Jiwei sighed in relief as her eyes sparkled with laughter, but that's all I can think of at this moment. Please let me off this time, teacher Sang. Sang Wansi looked at her for a moment. All right, I'll let you off this time. With just a few sentences, the awkwardness between the two of them was dissolved. Lu Jiwei stopped thinking about yesterday's mistake. She smiled and stretched out her hand, rubbing Sang Wanxi's head. Go film, I'm leaving. The next scene to be shot was Sang Wanxi's. After today's shoot, the two of them would be able to rest the whole day tomorrow. Sang Wanxi nodded. The two of them walked off in different directions. Lu Jiwei slowly bit into the apple as she looked for a place to rest. Lao Wu came out. Do you want to draw the prize now? Lu Jiwei, no rush, good things come to those who wait. The more I want it, the more I want to have it. Besides, that ridiculous prize pool of yours, I'm starting to feel that the quicker I draw, the lesser the chance of getting a good thing. Let's take it slow. Drawing a prize out of the blue, my luck might not notice and I might be able to get the right to know the storyline. Lao Wu. Alright, as long as you're happy. Just as Sang Wanxi reached the set and was about to call out to director Guo, Chu Luo suddenly appeared. After we knock off tonight, I need to speak to you. Chu Luo looked at her with a determined gaze. It's very important. Sang Wanxi didn't reply. Chu Luo immediately used his ultimate move, it has to do with Lu Jiwei. Sang Wanxi looked at him passively. Where? Chu Luo invited Sang Wanxi to meet in a coffee shop near the hotel. Didn't he want anybody else to interrupt them, so he booked out the whole place. Truthfully, he thought that someone like him with money and looks should be every woman's ideal lover. Lu Jiwei no chance, she didn't have money or fame and she couldn't provide the kind of life Wanxi wanted. Someone like Wanxi should be supported and protected with all the best and most luxurious things. Most importantly, how could Wanxi like women? Chu Luo? Lu Jiwei, you don't even meet the most basic criteria. He smugly sipped his coffee as he looked at the person opposite him warmly. Sang Wanxi had no reaction to any of this. From when she was a kid, the thing she lacked the least was money. Once someone was rich enough, they didn't care about money anymore. She didn't touch the cup of coffee in front of her, cutting to the chase immediately. You can say it now. Chu Luo put his cup down slowly, his elegant eyes filled with seriousness. Have you never thought of something? Sang Wanxi didn't reply. Chu Luo continued, why does Lu Jiwei treat you so nicely? Sang Wanxi folded her arms, her expression unchanging. Why? She wanted to hear what he had to say about Lu Jiwei. Chu Luo's heart ached when he saw that she clearly hadn't figured out the meaning. Wanxi has indeed been deceived. Chu Luo's face darkened. Of course it's because she likes you. Sang Wanxi.